Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Match Points with USPTA. I'm Ramona Husaru, and today I have the pleasure to be speaking with Kim Bastable, who leads the Director of Racquet Sports Certification Program at the University of Florida. Kim, such a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So Kim, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for several years. You served as the president for our USPTA Missouri Valley Division, and for the past couple years you have been leading the USPTA Director of Racquet Sports Program at the University of Florida, a program that provides coaches with knowledge on how to successfully manage a tennis operation, a racket sports operation, and how to become a strong leader. We know that a career in tennis is very exciting, but it also presents its challenges, right? Why don't we start talking about the different struggles that a tennis teaching professional experiences every day, and what are some ways that they can overcome that?
Okay, that's a great place to start. I mean, there's so many intricate places in the world of a pro that some are within our control and some are not within our control. And so when we feel stress and just have a bad day, it may be self-induced. And one of the things I'm passionate about is for people to not get in their own way. So I'd like to talk about what are the things that we really can control and change. And they may be more than I think pros understand. So for instance, some of the things that a pro might feel are outside of their control would be the boss that they have and how good a boss they are, would be maybe the pay that they're receiving, would be maybe the hours that they're required to work. There are some other things that are within their control, which would be the attitude that they bring to work, how well they advocate for themselves at work, how well they talk about what their needs are. So often they're silent, and that's just not helpful. We become more capable and confident and less stressed with capabilities that we learn, and we don't have those at the day one when we get tested. We often feel very intimidated at the beginning, and that confidence comes from learning the capability, and that's within their control. I would really like to empower through our programs and any education at USPTA, helping people realize they're in more control than they think, and they can really help themselves reduce the stress and thrive more in the profession than maybe they think they can.
So one of the common struggles that we see is that sometimes pros maybe have challenges with their boss. It's part of life, right? And we have to learn how to deal with it. So what would be some suggestions that you would have for that situation?
Communication is very, very important. But we also want to encourage pros to advocate for themselves in the sense of volunteer for those things that you're very interested in doing. Step up and do those things very well that you just really love to do. And then when you are asked to do things that you're maybe not feeling as comfortable with, don't just be mad. Learn about it. You can Google anything these days. You can come to courses. You can read books. There are many ways that we can improve ourselves, and then advocate the fact that you have. If you attend a convention and you learn about something that actually is happening at your club, you feel is very useful at your club, don't be shy about it. Don't keep that to yourself. Go back to your day and say, I took this seminar at the convention and here's what I learned, and I think it could be helpful in these ways. And advocate to the director, and advocate even to the members of your club. It's okay for you to say, I read this book on drills and I really loved these 3 drills. I think they'd be perfect for us. And you go through the lesson and you let someone know that you learned it through an outside resource. That just shows so much about your initiative and your desire to improve. And so it's like we can navigate through those difficulties through a place of capability, and rather than just be a victim. And I don't think anyone should be a victim. There are obviously situations that are not movable and might be ones that you would want to leave. And there's difficulties in anything in life, and our first step should be learning, problem solving, facing it, not shying away, and just accepting that we may not be fully equipped in that moment, but we can certainly learn and get better.
Awesome. So having said that, what advice do you have for those people that maybe are just starting out and they don't know yet whether they like to teach 10 and under, whether they like to run events, mixers? What would you recommend for those people that are still trying to figure it out?
We tend to do things the way we were taught. We tend to say that's the way it should be done. But I think that's one of the first things I learned when I took my own certification exam, was that wow, there's more than one way to hit a tennis ball, and I better know how to teach more than one way than the way that I'd learned. So we need to be so open to new opportunities, new learnings, and many of those will be uncomfortable. Many of those will be scary. Many of those will be things that you, in the first day, you feel very inadequate at. And then perhaps over time, we're going to figure out a strength that we never knew we had. And I liken it to a player. It's the same thing we do as players. It's like we learn how to play the game with the strokes that we have, and then we learn which of those strokes we really love to use and which style of play we really think will make us the best to win our matches. And that doesn't happen overnight. So it takes a lot of time, and we need to be patient in our learning as a professional as well.
Excellent. I really like the fact that you're emphasizing that a tennis professional needs to be well-rounded and try different things and really pursue and find the areas that are really their niche, that they're enjoying doing, because that is going to help them in having a long career and enjoying what they're doing.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's what's equipped me for the position I'm in now as a director of Racquet Sports Certification Program, is that I really have many experiences in the industry that have now equipped me for a role. I mean, online learning has never been a thing up till maybe 10 years ago. So when I became certified in 1990, who would have known this would have been where I would have landed? So it's very fun to just wait and see. You never know what you're going to learn and how you're going to use it, and where you end up could be far from where you ever thought you'd end up.
So you have a master's in coaching education, specifically in positive psychology, and you hold a number of certifications in mental toughness, one of them being from Human Performance Institute, which was founded by Dr. Jim Lear. And I would like us to talk a little bit about stress, because stress is part of our daily lives, and our tennis pros are putting in a lot of hours, and sometimes maybe they struggle with balancing their personal and professional life.
Well, one of the things is defining what stress is, which I found this very helpful. I mean, we kind of know what it feels like, but what is it? It's a perception that we don't have the capability to handle the challenge. I go back to the example of teaching a group lesson. When any of us took our very first exam, we might have been quite intimidated when those 4 people showed up and their eyes are on us and we're saying, oh, what am I supposed to do with these people, and how will I make this lesson good, and how will I pass the test, and how will I make sure that I've managed the safety and I've innovative drills and I've helped them to learn something, and it's quite intimidating. So it's a matter of, we aren't sure we have the capabilities to handle that challenge. Hopefully, we navigate through that, in that lesson time. But if we didn't, then the way we're going to navigate that challenge in the future is through capabilities, reading drill books, networking at conventions, watching other people teach. And then all of a sudden we have a capability. So that same situation doesn't feel stressful. So that's one thing, is increase our capabilities. We should be continual learners. And then the second thing about stress is that it often comes from lack of personal management of our physical, mental, and emotional energy. And I think all of us can relate to the hangry and hungry, angry times in our life when we are malnourished and we are not in a very good mood. But that is a real thing, and if we don't schedule lunches or dinner breaks, or don't eat adequately, fill our bodies with sugar and caffeine, don't get enough sleep, it's unlikely we can bring a high quality lesson. So that same situation or any challenging situation at work is probably going to create a poor response or feel stressful. So managing ourselves physically is key. That's probably a universal challenge for a busy, eager, hardworking, commission-based professional who 1 more hour on the court is going to mean they make money versus take a lunch break. But it is managing, the quality of what you want to produce on court, the longevity of your career, with the 30 minutes that you might get paid a commission base for that time on court.
So with that, having said that, I want to take this a little further, because we know that there are situations where the clubs or the facility that the pros work at require them to teach a lot of hours, maybe 60 hours a week, work 6-7 days a week with maybe no time off for long periods of time.
Absolutely. There are studies that show that when we know that we have to be at work too long for our mental and a physical capability, our productivity goes down. So we basically go through the motions at about 70% all the time. So what we need to do is say, do you want us at me at 70% or all the time? Or do you want me to be at 100% giving really well? Well, then I need to take those times off, or I need to have those breaks for lunch, or I need to be able to get proper sleep. I can't work at 9 p.m. and open the club at 6:30. So it is truly, there's science behind it. Lair and a guy named Tony Schwartz have done a lot of energy research that just proves this data, and if a club needs to see it, it can be shown. But it is an education, and people need to stand up and say, I will work very hard for you, but I will not work endlessly. It's just not a capability that we have. It's just physically, we're not able.
Last year at our USPTA World Conference in Las Vegas, you gave a seminar, and you discussed the importance of purpose. What is purpose, and why is it so important?
Well, it's so important, and I think the best example I can give is the story of Andre Agassi. And Andre played to please his father for the first part of his career. I think he won 3 Grand Slams, so he was quite good, but then he ended up being injured. He left the career, and this is documented in his book, and then he talks about he realized that he had never sort of had a normal childhood, and he never had a normal education. And he became very passionate about providing a traditional education and a good education to the people in the children of Las Vegas. That's what purpose does. He had the purpose to help others, and he became just such a much better tennis player. He had more results. He won 5 Grand Slams after that, after he dropped to like 140 in the world. So purpose fuels us, but it's a purpose that has to do with others that fuels us. They call that a deep purpose. You could have the purpose that you just want to make money, and that's the purpose some people might have. But it's not going to fuel you to the level, people see through that, they see that as self-serving. But if your purpose is to serve the members in such a way that they have joy in playing, but also joy in building their health and joy in the social connectivity that tennis provides and all racket sports provide, you're looking out for others. And that just has this feel-good effect that nobody looks at you as the selfish one. They want to be with you. They want to take lessons from you. They want to be at your events. They want to go because your purpose as a parent. It's motivating to you because you have far more desire to serve all those people, and it's just not selfish. And that's what we've found about the study of purpose, is that we need to have one that involves others and has a bigger goal than just serving ourselves. And that's one thing I think sort of junior players coming up, they look at it as, oh, tennis is what I've known, and so I'll just go out and teach, and oh wow, I can make quite a bit of money doing this. And they sort of forget that there can be more to tennis than just winning matches. And that's one reason to train somebody to hit a better forehand. But my feeling is, let's train someone to hit a better forehand, because it really makes them have more capability to have fun on court, and then they can be with more people, and they can play more often, and they can move more. The points last longer, there's more health benefits. It's just, let's make tennis be more about health and welfare and well-being, and then everybody succeeds.
And about mental toughness, right? All the different areas and aspects that tennis teaches us about becoming mentally tough and resilient and overcoming adversities. I mean, we could spend all day talking about all the benefits, but I want to take this, what you just said earlier, and tie it in with how this purpose that our tennis pros have, how does that feed into their coaching philosophy and their brand, and what is it that they stand for every day?
Well, I go back to the idea that, what was your playing style? What was it that you did well? And that's what coaching philosophy is. It's like, what are we very passionate about? And everybody's allowed to do that. So let's say you really love children. Then your coaching philosophy could be to just, increase the joy for the 10 and unders or the 12 and unders, because you want those kids to have that well-rounded movement, and that's something you're passionate about, and that could be your philosophy, is that you like the participation aspects. You don't want one child to ever go home because they didn't have a good time. Or maybe you are very much into the high performance, and you really feel like there are some players out there that can benefit from the high performance in terms of the discipline it takes, the problem solving it takes, the goal setting of getting a college scholarship, and maybe playing past that. Those are life skills that are very transferable. Whatever it is that you find most important, and it's sort of like me, I struggled from a mental toughness perspective as a player. I played at a very high level. I was an All-American at Florida So I had the capability, but I held myself back. And so I became very interested in figuring out, what did I do wrong? And why didn't I love the game? When I was 21, I walked away from the game because of the stress of it, and I didn't really understand why. I thought the stress was over there on the tennis court, and by walking away from playing, I would avoid that. Well, guess what? Stress follows you in life. There's multiple ways. We've already talked about it. So that's not really what happened. But I wanted to learn about why I did not have the capabilities to manage the stress on the tennis court. So I went back and I got the positive coaching and mental toughness specialist certification, and now I'm passionate to help youth who all feel that same stress. They feel they don't know how to manage it. I do on the side, I do a lot of mental toughness coaching because I want athletes not to quit like I did. So we all find our passions, and we all get a coaching philosophy that works for, again, our strengths, our values, our beliefs, and that's what we should put our energy in. We don't have to be all things.
That's right, that's right. And hopefully if that teaching philosophy at that particular club ties in with what the professional has in mind and wants to do as well, because that can really go a long way.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key when you're a professional. If you want to thrive, you need to match your philosophy and the way you believe tennis should be taught with the atmosphere that you're working in. There are lots of job opportunities out there, and to jump on one just because you like the name of the club or it's the friend that used to work for or something about it resonates, it might not be the right fit. So country clubs have a different atmosphere. They're more service oriented. Racquet clubs are a little bit more high sell. There are more kids, more players on the court, more sales orientation. Park and rec is a different price point. It may be a different type of clientele, and so that requires different services. Resorts is a whole nother one. You might see someone and give them a good lesson but never see them again. I tend to be a relationship person, so for me a resort environment just doesn't feel like there's enough connection. But there's nothing wrong. Someone else might love that resort environment. So it's important for us to match, yes, the kind of philosophy and the beliefs that we have with the environment that matches that. And if we get ourselves in the wrong environment, then that will diminish our ability to thrive. And that's our responsibility. That's on us. Figure out who we are, put ourselves in the right seat, get on the right bus.
Excellent, excellent. As we're getting close to an end here, I would like to ask you about key points that this program, the Director of Racquet Sports program, covers. And I know there is a lot of content in there, and USPTA has worked with you to develop and create this content. And for those that haven't had a chance to look at the outline and what are the things that cover, but give us a brief summary of what it takes to be a successful Director of Racquet Sports and really a powerful leader.
Yeah, a lot of it was about leadership. I think, originally you might think the skills that a director of racquet sports requires that maybe a head pro doesn't have would be the finance and accounting, budgeting, maybe marketing. But the leadership part is key, and that's the hiring, how to hire and how to fire if necessary, but then how to build a culture that really creates this desire to want to work. So as a leader, you can choose to be the dictator, and you can say, well, you go on that court at that time, and you do that, and I'll sit in my office over here. Hopefully that's not going on, but a leader should, if they're a servant leader, should say, how can I serve you to get your, what do you need from me this week? Whatever form that might take. It might be financially, it might be that you need a day off. It might be that you need them to jump on the court with you. There could be a lot of ways the leader could help the people on their staff get their job done. So leadership is a big part of it. We talk about all the complementary racket sports. Of course, pickleball is one of the big ones, but there's platform in different part of the countries. There's now padel, there's spec, there's touch tennis that came out of London, there's beach tennis if you happen to have sand somewhere. And it's just really kind of an awareness that it is broader than tennis in a good way. I think that brings people out, it gives variety. I think there's a lot of ways to make tennis more interesting if you bring other types of balls, other types of rackets, paddles, games. It's kind of more just the entertainment, the movement of racket sports. So it's made our industry quite interesting, but it's been a challenge for directors. There's kind of a lot of new things to learn. So we cover a lot of that. We introduce a lot of those concepts. It's an exciting curriculum that really, we have had 7 graduates now, and they're all quite happy with what they've learned. Varying different things they're interested in. Maybe they brought a different thing to the table, so they're interested in different things. Not one thing is resonating, but they're really enjoying it.
Okay, Kim, so every episode ends with 3 match points. What are 3 main takeaways that you would like our pros to remember from today's episode?
Well, I've talked about these things, and I think I'll just sum it up with 3 kind of buzzwords, which are from the world of psychology, but they really say it. One is autonomy, one is mastery, and one is purpose. And we talked about purpose. Know your purpose. Make sure that you actually have a very clear idea of who you want to serve and how you want to serve them in the world of tennis, and that you get yourself to the right job. The mastery piece is make sure you keep learning. Keep mastering things, because that will reduce your stress. When you have things that are uncomfortable, just get back and say, I need to learn about how to manage this situation better. Become a problem solver with mastery. And autonomy is take some things on your own. I mean, if you really want to actually be happy, the science says that we need to have some power. So that would be what I would say as a leader, is hopefully you're giving autonomy to your to your staff, and letting them go. Let them make a few mistakes, but have them teach on their own. Enjoy the fact when you have a little bit of power. And so autonomy, take that initiative, do a few things, make a few mistakes if necessary. Mastery, keep learning, and purpose. Know what you're doing, know why you're doing it.
Kim, I love spending time with you. This was a lot of fun. I wish you had more time. There's so many topics that we could talk about. Thank you so much for being with us today and spending time with us.
Very much enjoyed it.
That was it for today. You watched a new episode of Match Points with the USPTA. See you next time.